Good morning. Chapter 7, Python Functions. So, now let us see about the functions in Python. So, before that, what are functions? Functions are blocks with a name given to them. They contain code, that is a set of statements to complete a particular task. So, whenever that particular task has to be done, we will call those functions. Those functions will complete that particular task. We can call them any number of times whenever it is required. So you can compare it with making of pizza in a restaurant. So you can, many people can do that pizza at home also, but it will consume time and energy. Instead, if we order, it will save us time, energy and all. So like that, these functions are created to save memory space, time and energy. So we can create them, we can set aside, we can keep them aside, and we can call them repeatedly again and again. So what are the types of functions we have? We have these 4 types of functions. They are user-defined functions, built-in functions, Lambda functions and recursion functions. We are going to see them one by one. First one, user-defined function means functions created by user. That is, when you create a function, you are the user, and when I create a function, then I'll be the user. That is, functions created by us are called as user-defined functions. Built-in function means you know about keywords. So they are specific to the programming language. In the same way, these functions, every programming language has a particular set of functions. So we can call them, we can use them whenever we need, like print. We have print and other functions. So in each programming language, this will be there. So these functions are called as built-in functions. But this Lambda function is specific to this Python. So we have not heard of this in C or C++. So we have it here in Python. And then recursion function. So it is like a looping function. You know about loop. So like that, this function will call itself again and again until a particular condition is satisfied. So these are called recursive functions. So we can see them one by one. So before that, defining function. So defining function means creating the code for the function. So any function will be written, will have to be written, the code has to be written, that is called as defining the function. So this print function, if you take, it is a predefined function. So the code for that is already created, that is, this function has been already defined and that function is kept aside in the library. So we can call it and we can use it. So here, when we want to define a function, the syntax for doing that is def. That is, first you have to use this keyword def, and followed by that function name. That is, it is given within the angular bracket. So you must forget this angular bracket when you are writing the code. This angular bracket and then this square bracket and all, you will not use them. Just it is for the syntax. So you will have the keyword def, then function name, and in bracket you will have parameter list. That is parameter 1, parameter 2. So like that, whatever number of parameters you require, you can put them all within the bracket. And it can be empty also. It can be parameterless also. You can have the function. And then you have the block of statements within the angular bracket, but as I told you, this you will not use the angular bracket and all in your program. So block of statement means all the code you need to have in your function will be written here, and it must end with return statement. And following that, you will have expression, or you need not have that also. It's not, that is, return must be there, but following that, some value or variable, some variable can be given or it can be left out also. So this is a syntax for a Python function. So block, you have already heard about this block. Block means it is a set of statements. It contains a particular number of statements, a particular coding. Okay, so we already saw that we don't use any open brace, close brace, nothing, but it must have a particular indentation. Indentation means we can use any number of indentation in Python actually. There is no rule for that, but 4 spaces is preferable. But you can have, but if you use 2 spaces, all the related indentation must have that same particular 2 spaces. So next type of statement must have that next to that, that is 4 or 3 or something. We already saw that at the end of if statement, while statement and all, we have placed a colon. In the same way, at the end of the function header also, we must place a colon. Function header is the statement which bears the name of the function. After this, we will write the code block. That is, a code block is a set of statements belonging to that function. Return expression will mark the end of that block. After the word return, we can either have an expression or variable, or we can leave it as it is. So expression can be like a plus b, return a plus b. So that expression will be evaluated. Or it can be just a variable like return a. So in either of these cases, this value will be returned to the function which called this function, that is to a calling function. Or it can be left as it is. So in that case, just return. So in that case, it will mark the end of that function. So we already know that we can't have a keyword to name an identifier. So our function name is also an identifier. So we can't have a keyword as the name of our function. Nested block. A block within another block is called as a nested block. So if one block starts with single space, then another block must have at least 2 spaces. It may have 4 spaces or anything, but it must not have the same indentation as the outer block. Here is an example of function. Do something is the name of the function. So do and something are 2 separate words. They are connected using underscore. Underscore is used to make these 2 words into a single word, because any identifier cannot be in 2 words. It must be in a single word. So after that we have the bracket followed by the colon. Then we have value equal to 1. This is an assignment statement followed by return statement, that is return value. So value is the variable. So here value and return must not be with the same indentation like the do something statement. That is, they must not have the same indentation with the function header. And here we have an example. Def hello bracket colon. This is the function header. Def is the keyword used to define a function. Hello is the name of the function. And it ends, that function header ends with colon. Then we have print hello Python. So this hello Python string will be displayed when the function is being called. Then we have return, just return. So no other expression is followed by the word return. So this is a function definition. Function definition means some code will be written within the function. That is called as function definition. Advantages of user-defined functions. We already saw that user-defined function means functions written by the user. We are the user. So why do we have this user-defined function? First, to divide a program into modules. Modules are like small blocks. So it can be clear. They can be divided into modules. So because of that, the code is easier to understand and to manage. That is first point. Next, we can reuse the coding. We need not write it again and again many times. We can reuse that code. Next is that is, the functionality can be changed easily. With easy modification, we can create another function from that old function. So now we have defined our function, but we can use it only by calling it. A function can be called by a statement like this, that is, function name followed by bracket. Here the name of our function is hello, and it is followed by the bracket. So this statement will call the function we have created. So the output of our function will be hello Python. So this is one method of calling a function, just by giving the function name followed by bracket, and within that we can have the argument list if it has any. And this is one method. Another method is calling a function from within a print statement. So here is another function definition, that is def hello. Using the keyword def, we have created a function, and then we have the print statement, then return statement. So next to that we have print statement. Within that print statement we have this function call, that is hello. This is a function call. This is given within a print statement. So this will call the function. So this is like, this function does not have any expression, so this will return none. So here you can see it. So when you give this function call within a print statement, then it will return none. But if you just call it somewhere like hello, then this none word will not come. So next we have parameters, passing parameters in function. What are parameters? So parameters are given within the brackets in the function header. So last year you studied about actual parameters and formal parameters, but we won't use those words here, actual parameters and formal parameters. Those words will not be used here. Instead, we use arguments and parameters. So those words will be used here. So first, before that, we can see how to have parameter list within a function header. So def function, def is the keyword to create a function, then function name, and then the bracket is given, and within that we can have all our parameters separated by comma. So example is given here. Assume w equal to 3 and h equal to 5. So we must assume these two values for these two variables. Then we have our function area. This function is created using this keyword def. And in bracket we have this w and h. These are the parameters. That is what we give within the bracket within a function definition is called as a parameter. But when we pass it while calling a function, it is called as an argument. So these are the terms we use in the Python. So when they are given within the function header, they are called as parameters, and when they are given within the function call, they are called as arguments. So def area w comma h, and next we have return w into h. So w and h will be multiplied, and this value will be returned to the function which called this. That is the calling function will have the value of this expression. Then we have print area 3 comma 5. So this is the statement which calls our function. So this statement will call that function, and that will be executed, and the value will be returned at this place. So now we have function arguments. So as I told you, function arguments means the values. Here you can see this 3 comma 5. These are called as function arguments. And def area w comma h, those w and h are called as parameters. So this is the difference we have between Python and the previous languages. There are 4 types of function arguments. They are required arguments, keyword arguments, default arguments, and variable length arguments. Required arguments are the normal, common types of arguments. That is, if 3 parameters are there in the function definition, then the calling function will supply 3 arguments. That is, the parameters list will match the argument list. So this is normal type. So we can see this example. Actually, there is an error in this segment. So this will throw an error also. So name of the function is print string. It requires 1 parameter. Then it is followed by print statement, which will display the string example required arguments. And then we have another print statement which will display the value of str, the value of the parameter str. Then it is followed by the return statement. Next we have the function call, that is print string bracket. So this must have 1 argument within that. If it is so, it is correct, but it is not given, so that is an error. So here if you rectify that, then that mistake will be corrected, then we will have the proper output. Then we will have this output. Next type is keyword arguments type. So keyword arguments means if we have 3 parameters in the function definition, then we must supply all the parameters with the related arguments in the function call. That is, if first is the name of the first parameter, then value will be given as first equal to this. Then second means second equal to second value. Then third parameter means third equal to some value. Like that, parameters will be given the related arguments in the function call. So all of them will be given. The values can be given in any order. That is first, second, third means we can give the values as third, second, first also. We can change the order of the parameters, order of the arguments. So that is the case of this keyword arguments. So you can see this example. Here the name of the function is print data. It has the parameter name. So next we have print statement. It will display the string example 1 keyword arguments. Next it has another print statement name. So name will be displayed followed by the value of the parameter name. Then it has the return statement. So next we have print data. This is the function call. It has name equal to Sean. So this is correct. So name is the parameter. It is supplied with the argument Sean. So this will display the output like this. Example 1 keyword arguments and name equal to name Sean. In the next example, we have a function called print data. It has a parameter called name. So it must be supplied a value, that is, it must be supplied with an argument in the function call. But instead, name1 is supplied with the argument Sean. That is wrong, because we have the parameter, the name of the parameter is name, but the value is given for name1. So this will throw an error. So if we correct that, we will get a proper output. So in the next example, we have 2 parameters, that is name and age in the function. So we have 3 statements in that. First statement will be, it will display the string example 3 keyword arguments. Next print statement will display the string name, that is name followed by the value of the parameter name. Next we have another print statement. It will display the that is the string age followed by the value of the parameter age. Next we have return. So followed by that we have the function call. In function call we have age. Age is the parameter. It is supplied with the argument 25. Next we have next parameter, that is first one is age. So second one is name. It is supplied with the argument Sean. we can see that they are interchanged. The parameters are interchanged in the function call. So that is possible with the case of this keyword type of argument. So next we have this default arguments. Default arguments means the function header will be supplied with a value for some parameters. That is, if not all, some of the parameters can be given with some values. And while calling that function, we can give the values, we can send the arguments for other parameters. So here you can see that it has two parameters, that is name. First one is name, it is not supplied with any value. Next one is salary. It has the value 3500, and followed by that we have two statements, two print statements, name followed name with the name, and then value of the name will be displayed. Then other print statement, it will display the string salary followed by the value of the parameter salary. Okay, then we have return statement. Next we have the function call. Here we supply money. Money is a string. So this argument will be taken by the parameter name. And the salary already has some value. That value will be taken by the parameter salary. So this is perfect. So this is the example for default argument. So this it will display this output. So we can so next, but if we give two arguments instead of this money, if we give two values, that is two arguments, then what happens? That we are going to see in the next example. So you can see here, so they are giving two values, that is for name they are giving Ram, and then for salary they are giving 3500. So which value, which argument will be taken? So which will be taken? Only the new value will be taken. The old value which the function definition, function header was having will be ignored. So that value will be used only when no value is passed with the function call. So you must be very clear with that. So the value given in the function header will be used only if no value is passed with the function call. So if something is passed, then that value will be taken and the value with the function header will be ignored. So here, okay, next we have next type of argument called as variable length argument. So see this example. Here the name of the function is sum. It has three parameters. They are x, y and z. But in the function call, we supply it with 5 arguments. So we supply 2 extra values. So at this case, it will throw an error. So this is wrong. So this is wrong. It will throw an error. So you can see what error will you get. Takes 3 positional arguments, but 5 were given. That is the the error thrown with this particular segment. So instead, we can have this variable length arguments. That is, you can see here the name of the function is function name, and it has the star NOS. Star NOS is variable parameter. That is, it can have any number of arguments. It may be 2 or 3 or 1 or whatever. So it must be prefixed with that into, that is star symbol, followed by that just one parameter must be given. So it is flexible. It can take any number of arguments. So you can see that while calling the function, here 3 arguments are being passed, but it had only 1. But it is prefixed by star symbol, so it is variable. It can take any number. So this is the syntax for that variable length argument, that is def function name. Function name is the name of the function, and in bracket star args. Args is the just a sample parameter. It can be any parameter name. Then function body is given, then return statement is given. So this will be the output of this function, printing two values. That is, if we pass two arguments, then it will display this value. But if we pass three arguments, then it will pass this. These three values will be displayed. Just now we saw about a keyword or variable arguments type. We can pass the arguments in that type also, or we can pass the arguments in non-keyword type also. So that is a non-keyword variable type is called as tuples. Those arguments are called as tuples. So that is covered in separate lessons, that is not covered in this lesson. So next type is anonymous functions. Anonymous means without any name. So we can have functions without any name also. Those type of functions are called as lambda function, because we use the keyword lambda for those type of functions. So it can also be called as lambda functions. So what is the use of lambda or anonymous functions? It is used for creating very small and one-time use functions, and they are mainly used in combination with functions like filter, map and reduce. So those functions also are not covered in this lesson. So it can take any number of arguments, but it must be followed by an expression. So that is, this function looks totally different. So you must see here this type of function, the sum equal to lambda args, args1, args2, colon, followed by that you have this args1 plus args2. This is the expression. So this function, this type of function must be must have the expression after the colon. Then it can use only two types of variables, that is global variables, or global variables is special type of variables. We will see that after this. So it can use only global variables, or it can use only the variables in the parameter list. So in this example, args1, args2, it can use only those two values. Apart from that, it can't use any other variables. So you have these two print statements, that is print sum is. So this will be displayed on the screen. Then the sum. What is the sum? Sum is the variable. You can see in the first line. So in the first statement, sum is the name of the variable which has the value of this function. So that function is, that particular variable is supplied with these two values, 30 and 40. So next statement is another print statement. So it will display the expression, it will display the string, the sum is. And then again we call sum. Sum is a variable. So this time it is supplied with the values minus 30 and 40. So they will display the values, these statements in the output screen. There is a sum is 70 and the sum is 10, because first we sent 30 and 40. These two will be divided, these two will be added and we get 70. And next we add 40 and minus 30, so we will get 10. Okay. So return statement, we already saw about this. So when the return statement is encountered, that will be the end of the function. So it can be without any expression also, or if it has an expression, then that value will be passed to the function call. So it can, any number of return statements can be there, but only one statement will be executed. Only one return statement will be executed based on a particular condition given. Now syntax of return. So return is a word, followed by that expression list. Any expression or variable can be given. That is the syntax of return statement. So example for return statement, you can see here def. So def is a keyword used for defining a function. Then user or apps is the name of the function, and this function has the parameter n. So n is the name of the parameter. Then we have two return statements in this function. So if n greater than or equal to 0, then this return n, that statement will be executed. But if not, then the other, that is minus n, return minus n, that statement will be executed. So this particular function has two return statements, but either one only will be used. Okay, now when you call this function, x equal to int of input, enter a number. So this statement is executed. So what happens here? Print user apps x. So what is the name of the function? It is user apps. So we are calling that function from within a print statement. So here in both the occasions, only which one is being called? First one. That is, if n greater than 0, that is, when we pass the value 25, we just get the value 25. If we pass any value less than 0, then we will get minus 25. So in second occasion, we have minus 25 because, so we pass a minus value. So variable length arguments type, we can pass the arguments in two methods. That is, just now we saw about a keyword or variable arguments type. We can pass the arguments in that type also, or we can pass the arguments in non-keyword type also. So that is a non-keyword variable type is called as tuples. Those arguments are called as tuples. So that is covered in separate lessons, that is not covered in this lesson. So next type is anonymous functions. Anonymous means without any name. So we can have functions without any name also. Those type of functions are called as lambda function because we use the keyword lambda for those type of functions. So it can also be called as lambda functions. So what is the use of lambda or anonymous functions? It is used for creating very small and one-time use functions, and they are mainly used in combination with functions like filter, map and reduce. So those functions also are not covered in this lesson. So it can take any number of arguments, but it must be followed by an expression. So that is, this function looks totally different. So you must see here this type of function, the sum equal to lambda args1, args2, colon, followed by that you have this args1 plus args2. This is the expression. So this function, this type of function must be must have the expression after the colon. Then it can use only two types of variables, that is global variables, or global variables is special type of variables. We will see that after this. So it can use only global variables, or it can use only the variables in the parameter list. So in this example, args1, args2, it can use only those two values. Apart from that, it can't use any other variables. So you have these two print statements, that is print sum is. So this will be displayed on the screen. Then the sum. What is the sum? Sum is the variable. You can see in the first line. So in the first statement, sum is the name of the variable which has the value of this function. So that function is, that particular variable is supplied with these two values 30 and 40. So next statement is another print statement. So it will display the expression, it will display the string, the sum is, and then again we call sum. Sum is a variable. So this time it is supplied with the values minus 30 and 40. So they will display the values, these statements in the output screen. There is a sum is 70 and the sum is 10, because first we sent 30 and 40. These two will be divided, these two will be added and we get 70. And next we add 40 and minus 30, so we will get 10. Okay. So return statement, we already saw about this. So when the return statement is encountered, that will be the end of the function. So it can be without any expression also, or if it has an expression, then that value will be passed to the function call. So it can, any number of return statements can be there, but only one statement will be executed. Only one return statement will be executed based on a particular condition given. Now syntax of return. So return is a word, followed by that expression list. Any expression or variable can be given. That is the syntax of return statement. We have an example here. The name of the function is user apps. It has two return statements. If the value passed with for the parameter is more than 0, then first return statement will be executed. But if the value is less than 0, then the second return statement will be executed. So here we have input statement, and it is converted into int using that int function. Then this value will be assigned to x. Then we have this print statement. Within that we have the function call, that is user apps is being called. So we pass the argument x. So it can be either a positive number or negative number. So in first occasion we pass a positive number, positive 25 plus 25. So we get the value 25, return n, that is just a positive value will be written. Next time we pass minus 25. So this is a negative value. So return minus n will be invoked. So it will pass the value 25. Even though we have passed the minus value, it has given us minus of minus value. So it has become a positive value. So we can understand that any one return will be executed even though many number of returns are there in a function. So next we are going to see scope of variables. Already I told that we will see about global variables. There are two types of variables. One is local scope variable, another one is global scope variable. Local scope means these type of variables will be declared within a function, if statement or something. They can be used only within that block. It will not have any scope. It cannot be called, it cannot be accessed from outside the particular block or function. So rules of local variable. First rule is it can be accessed only from within the block, not from outside the block. So next one is when a variable is created within a block, then it becomes part of that. It becomes local to that block. Okay. Next one is a local variable exists only when the function is executing. When the scope goes out of the block, then that local variable will become unknown. Next, this local arguments are local to the functions. So example, creating a local variable. We have the function loc. Loc is the name of the function. So here we have y equal to 0. This is a local variable. This is a variable with local scope because it is being created within a function. So next statement is print y. So y can be displayed within that function because it is local to that function. So it can be accessed within that function. So out of then we go out of that function, then we call that a local function. So then when we call it, we have the value 0 for y. So that is okay. So now in the next example, we have the same function loc and we have the variable y equal to local. So y is assigned with the string local. So now again we call the function loc. So print y. We are passing, we are printing y. So after this we are printing that y. So value of y is local, but it cannot be accessed from outside that function. So it will throw an error because it is being accessed from outside the function. That is not possible. So next let us see about global scope variables. All the variables which are declared outside a block, outside all the blocks, are called as global scope variables. Rules for those global scope variables. First rule is that whenever we create a variable outside a block, then automatically it will become a global scope variable. We need not specify any keyword like global variable name. That is not at all required. Next rule is that when we want to access that global variable from within a block, then we can use the keyword global. But from outside a block, if we use that global keyword, then it has no effect. That is unnecessarily we are using that. So we have an example here, c equal to 1. This is a global variable. Next we have a function, name of the function is add. It has a statement print c. So this statement is within a function block, but we are able to access that c from within the function. Next we have add. We are calling that function. So here it must have the indentation same as that def line. So it must have the same definition, the same indentation. So you will have the output as 1. Okay, so the same thing is repeated here. Next we have one more example, that is modifying global variable from inside the function. So we have a global variable c, its value is 1. Then we have the function def. So in that we have the statement expression c equal to c plus 2. So is it possible or not? No, it is not possible. We can't modify a global variable from within a function. So that will throw an error. So for that we need the keyword global. Okay, next statement is print c. So this is given here, then add function is being called. So as I told you, it will throw an error. So the error is unbound local error. That is local variable c referenced before assignment. This error will be thrown. So how can it be rectified? So we can see the statement c equal to c plus 2. Above that we must include one statement, that is global x. If we just include this, then everything will be over. That is, here we must include global c. So name of the variable is c, so global c. In the next example, x equal to 0, this is the global variable. Name of the function is add. So we have global x. X is the global variable. So we are going to use it. So we give the statement global x. Now we can modify it. So if we want to modify a global variable, then this global statement, global followed by the global variable, that must be given, must be included. Okay, then we have print inside add function x value is colon. So this will be displayed as it is. Then comma followed by the value of x. So previously, while being the global variable, it had the value 0. But now within the function we changed it into 5. So now we must see which value is being displayed, either 0 or 5. So that we are going to see. Okay, so we are calling the function add here in the next statement. Then we have the statement print in main x value is x. So here what value will be displayed? It will be 5, because even though we changed the value of x from within the function, the value of the global variable has changed. So now from wherever we print it, either from within the function or from outside the function, it will display the same value, since we have used that statement global followed by variable name. Okay, so now global and local variables, that is using both the variables from in the same place, the same code. Okay, x equal to 8. So x is a global variable. We have this function called loc. So we have these statements, that is global x, because we are going to change it, we are going to modify it. So we have to use this statement only if we want to modify a global variable. So global x, then y equal to local. So y equal to local is a local variable. So next statement is x equal to x into 2. So here we are using the global variable x. We are multiplying it by 2. So previously it was 8, now it will become 16. So next statement is print x. So we are passing this, we are displaying the value of x. In next statement we are displaying the value of y. So next we are calling the function loc. So you can see that for those two print statements, first print statement displayed 16. So that is a new value of x. Next print statement displayed the value of the local variable, that is local. So this is an example to show that both global and local variables are used in the same code. Okay, so next we have another example for global variable and local variable with having same name. That is, if a same global variable. So here we can see that x is a global variable and we have another variable, that is a local variable with the same name x. So we are going to see that in this example, x equal to 5, def loc. Loc is the name of the function. Here we have x equal to 10. So x equal to 10, then we have print statement. In that local x will be displayed as it is and the value of x will be displayed. So what is the value of x now? What value will be displayed here? Will 5 will be displayed or 10? So that we are going to see now. What do you think? Either 5 or 10, which will be displayed? Okay, let us see. So now that the local function is being called, because as I told you already, whatever functions we create, we must call them to use it. Otherwise, it's of no use. Okay, next statement is print. Then global x value. Then global x string will be displayed. Then value of x will be displayed. Okay, now output x10. So this first statement is the display of the print statement within the local function. So what does it display? 10. So 10 is the value of the local variable. It is not the value of the global variable. So we can understand that if there is the same name is given to a global variable as well as a local variable, then value of local will be taken. The value of the global variable will be ignored. Okay, next statement. Next print statement displays global x. So this is outside the function block. So this statement will display the value of the global variable. Next, let us see about libraries. Libraries are like the header files we used in the previous programming languages. Libraries contain packages. Packages contains modules in written. Modules are like the small segments of programs. They contain all the functions, predefined functions that are required by us and they are ready to use. Those functions are called as built-in functions. We are going to see them one by one. First function that we are going to see is abs function. This abs function returns us with absolute value, that is a positive value. Its syntax is abs x. Abs is the name of the function and x is the argument it requires. It requires one argument. So we can see the example here. X equal to 20 and y equal to minus 23.2. So first we call this abs function with the argument 20. So that is with the argument x which contains the value 20. Next we call that function with the argument y which contains the value 23, minus 23.2. So first time we pass with the value 20 which is already a positive number. So it returns the same value. But second time we pass the argument y with the value minus 23.2 which is a negative number. So this time it will return us with the absolute value 23.2, that is the positive form of minus 23.2. The next function we are going to see is Ord function. This function returns an ASCII value for the given Unicode character. So Unicode characters are alphabets, symbols, all those things. So when we pass these ASCII, this Unicode characters to this function, this will return us with the related ASCII values. So for example, we take two variables, c equal to lowercase a and d equal to capital A. So when we pass these two to this Ord function, so it will return us with 97. 97 is the ASCII value of A and 65 is the ASCII value of capital A. 97 is the ASCII value of lowercase a and 65 is the ASCII value of uppercase A. So next function is Chr function. This is just the opposite of the previous function, that is Ord function. So this returns us with the Unicode character for the given ASCII value. We must pass it the ASCII values as the arguments so that it will return us with the Unicode characters. So we have two variables, c equal to 65 and d equal to 43. So when we pass these two ASCII values, it will return us the ASCII, that is, it will return us the Unicode character A for the ASCII value 65 and Unicode character plus for the ASCII values 43. So next we have the function bin. Bin returns us with the binary value of any number. So it requires one argument. That argument must be a number. So when we pass that number, it will return us with a binary value of that number prefixed by the characters 0 and B. B for binary. So in this example, we are going to pass two variables, that is two arguments x and y containing the values 15 and 101. When we pass them, 15 will be returned with 0B1111. That is 1111 is the binary value of 15 and next one, that is 1100101 is the binary value of the number 101. So next we have the function type. This function requires one argument. So it will return us the type, that is data type of that argument. So when we take these three variables, that is x, y and s, and we pass them as arguments. So for first one, that is for 15.2, it returns us that it is a floating point type. And for A, it returns that it is a str, that is string type, and true is a bool type. So next function is id function. This function returns us the address of the passed argument. So we take the variables of x and y. So these two, so for these past two functions, we will send the arguments as objects as the arguments. So x equal to 15 and y equal to a. So we take these two variables and we pass them to the function. So first time, so for both of them, it returns us with the address. But in our system, this address is going to be different. So wherever these variables are being stored, that address will be returned to us. So next three functions are helpful in the case of lists. Lists are like the arrays we used in the previous programs. So my list is a list. It contains like 4 values. So when we pass this list to that function, it will return us with the minimum least value of all those values. So all these three functions requires a list as the argument. So next function max will return us with the maximum value of a list values. So this also requires a list. So next function sum, it will return us with the sum of all the values in a list. Next, let us see the function format. When we pass any number to this function, it will return us the numbers in other formats, that is in a binary format or octal format or like fixed point format, like that. So this requires 2 arguments. First one will be the number and the second one will be the format required. So here we can see that the format x comma b. So here x is 14 and b is binary. So in next print statement we send y, that is 25, and o for octal. And in next print statement we send y and f, that is y is 25 and f is for fixed point number. So it returns us with the following values. So next function is round function. This function returns us with a rounded off value, that is the nearest integer value. So it can have either 2 arguments or 1 argument. So we take this x, y and z. So a value of x is 17.9 and y is 22.2 and z equal to minus 18.3. So in the first time we send only 1 argument. So x, then 17.9 is returned as 18 and 22.2 is returned as 22 and minus 18.3 is returned as minus 18. But the second time we return it with, that is we pass it with 2 arguments. So what does it do this time? So n1 comma 0. So n1 we pass it with 17.9. So this time it returns with 17.9 and then 0. 0 is the number of decimal points. So there is after the decimal point, how many digits can be returned. So when we give 0, it returns with 0. So in the next step, we give as n1 comma 1. So same 17.9, but now we specify that the digits can be 1. So 1 can be there, 1 digit can be there after the decimal point. So it returns us with 9. So already 1 was there, so same thing is returned. So next time we send with n1 comma 2. So this time we specify that it can return us 2 decimal values, that is 2 precisions is allowed. So this time it returns us with 17.89. So we can see that the 9 is converted into 18.9. Okay, so next function is pow function. Pow function returns us with power value. That is, it requires two arguments, a comma b. A is the value and b is the power value. That is, the next number is used for power. Okay, so we can see here power of a comma b means the power of 5 to the power of 2. So in next example, a comma c is 5 to the power of that is 3.0. So in next example, power of a plus b, that is power of 5 plus 2 is 7. So power of 7, that is power of 3 to 7. So we get this following values. Okay, next we have mathematical functions. So mathematical functions can be used only with the help of import math. That is, if you are going to use that function in 14th line, that is 14th statement, in 13th statement also you can use this import math. Just these two words are required. You can use them in the beginning also, or you can use it anywhere, but you must specify it before using that particular math function. The first mathematical function we are going to see is floor. This function returns us with an integer value which can be either less than that passed number, or it can be equal to that also. So there is another change also here, that is, previously we saw that all the functions were given just as it is, just the function name and any arguments were given. But here it must be prefixed with the module name also. The name of the module is math. You can see that floor x is prefixed with math dot. So we take, for example, 3 variables, that is x, y and z, and we pass them to this function, and in the print statement you can see that math dot floor x is given. So all these values are being passed, and it returns us with, for 26.7 it returns us 26, and for minus 26.7 it returns us minus 27, which is lesser than minus 26. And next, for minus 23.2 it returns us minus 24, which is again lesser than minus 23.2. Okay, next function is ceil function. So this mathematical function returns us with the smallest integer, but which is greater, that is next number, or it may be equal also. It may be either equal or it may be greater than that particular number. So here we take 3 arguments, that is 3 variables, and we send them as arguments. And for 26.7 it returns 27, and for minus 26.7 it sends us it returns us minus 26, and for minus 23.2 it returns us with minus 23. The next mathematical function we are going to see is square root. This function requires one argument. So when we pass that value, any value, it will return us the square root of that number. But that argument must be greater than 0. So in this example, we take 3 values, 30, 49, 25.5, and we assign them to the variables and we pass them to the function, square root function. And you can note that this function is also prefixed with math dot. So all the mathematical functions must be prefixed with math dot, that is module dot, module name dot. Okay, so these functions returns us with these values. In case if we pass it with 9, then it will return us with the value 3. Next, let us see about composition in function. So composition in function means one function will return some value and that value will be used as the argument by another function. This is called as composition in functions. So in this example, you can see that this input function returns some value. This value is used as an argument by the eval function. So this is an example for composition. So enter a number. So this input statement displays this message, enter a number. You're going to type 2, 3, 4. So that value will be assigned to n1. Okay, so what does this eval does? This eval evaluates an expression. If you just give a number, that number is taken as it is. But in case, if you give an expression like this in the second example, that expression is evaluated by this eval function and that will be assigned to some variable. So that is a function of this eval function. Okay, next Python recursive functions. Recursive function means if we call one function, that function will call another function. So it is a looping function. The function will loop until a particular condition is satisfied. So here we have an overview of how this function works. First, this recursive function is called by an external code. That is, some code, some function call from another function will call this function. Okay, next, some condition will be met. So if that condition is met, then this function will stop. So it will stop and it will exit. So if that condition is not met, then until it is met, it will be repeated. It will be repeated again and again. So that is a recursive function. You can see here, fact is an example of this recursive function. So here n equal to 0, this is the condition. So if the value given is 0, first this function calculates the factorial. Factorial means I think you all know, factorial of 5 means 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 5. So factorial of 7 means 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 5 into 6 into 7. So that is the factorial. So if the given number is 0, then it will return the value 1. That is, factorial of 0 is 1 always. So it's a rule. So that value will be returned. Otherwise, if you give any other number like 5 or 7 or 10 or any other number, then factorial will be calculated. So in this example, for example, if you give it the argument 5, then so 5 return 5n into, so n is 5. So return 5 into, next time factorial of n minus 1, that is 5 minus 1 is 4. So 5 into 4. So like that it will go on until it becomes 1. So 5, that is 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So it will go on like this and it will output us with the value 120. But how many times this recursive function will be executed? So you will think that it will go on if a particular condition is not satisfied. You will think that it will be repeated again and again, that is infinitely. But it's not like that. A recursive function will be called, it will be executed only up to 2000 times. It will not be executed more than that because a default value is set already. But you can change it using this set recursion limit function. So using this function, you can change it. So in this example, you can change it into 3000. So otherwise, it will throw an error after 2000 times. But here, it will be repeated after 2000 also. So in this function fact n, if n equal to 0, it will return 1. Otherwise, return n into fact of n minus 1. Actually, in this example, they must have given 3000, to check this, the change we have made using the new function, but they have given 2000 by mistake. So this is the end of the lesson.